Salute Knicks Nation. The streets are buzzing. Welcome in to tonight's stream. We've just signed a coach, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Brown, head coach of the New York Knicks. Has a solid ring to it. Let's talk about it with the chat, the best chat in the biz. Welcome in, Knicks Nation. So much to look forward to. Summer League around the corner. We have our coach locked in right now. And we're going to go through the numbers. What does Mike Brown bring to the table? Experience, offense, versatility, toughness, mindset, accountability. And congrats to Mike Brown for getting the job. Right. We're going to talk about his relationship with Leon Rose. They have a relationship going way back that not many people know about. But obviously, Towns, Brunson, he was fully bought in. He had the Sabonis, Fox tandem, and now he's got the Brunson burner with the Bodega cat up in here. And this, outside of the Cavs, LeBron teams, probably the best roster that, Mike Brown has ever coached, in his career. This squad is stacked, and I just tweeted this out, but top of the show, welcome in everyone coming through the building. Great stream, looking forward to tonight. Hearing your thoughts, comment section, get in there, like button, please smash it, and let's talk about this pathway forward now with Coach Mike Brown, lighting it up in Sacktown with the offense, and pace is up, assist percentage is going to be up. I got all the numbers to lay out tonight. I think he brings similar qualities that Thibodeau had that the front office liked. Experience, the hard-nosed, abilities to hold players accountable, control the media narrative as well. Also a little bit more adaptable and collaborative. Those are the words coming out that earned Mike Brown the job. But obviously, right now, man, what do y'all think? This is got to be the best roster that Mike Brown has ever coached. And, we'll look at the offensive numbers that he had success with in Sacktown, but he's going to have a whole heap of new weapons to work with that he's never had before. There's that viral video where he was holding Malik Monk accountable. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We'll bring you up to speed with the latest cap situation as well. DeAndre Ayton just got signed by LA once and for all. The Knicks have expressed interest in Ben Simmons. Right. I don't think that's likely to happen, but they've expressed interest. We'll talk about that. Reports out of the interview process coming through that Mike Brown was bought in on the Brunson-Towns duo. And obviously collaborative with the front office too. Malleable, able to be flexible with players that they bring in, and he's going to use them, develop them as well. Let's shout out the chat. Come through. Keith, Dwayne, what's good? Darren, Johnny, Walter, Daniel Berry, salute to Richard, Johnny, Darren Hood, Drew Reviews. Let's go, guys. Great to see y'all. A- off season so far. In regards to Mike Brown, right, he wasn't obviously a lot of people's first choice, but I think as the process played out, he was the safest option. They're in a risk-taken business, but they don't want to take too much of a risk. I for Impact tweets this out, man. I think this sums it up quite well. If you can take a Kings team led by Fox and Sabonis to the number one offense, we could be about to see the highest rated offense of all time next season. People are going to realize, right, how much that Tibbs could have been holding back their collective overall talent. Fam, how do y'all feel right now? We've got our coach locked in. We're ready to go. I think he's going to bring toughness too. Some dog, like Johnny says. I like the fact that Mr. Brown practices late game execution. How else do you judge skill sets, talent? Yeah, accountability. If guy's out playing another guy, you got to get a shot. You've also got to, switch up the lineups. Josh Hart, certain situations, I think Brown would have made some changes to that lineup, right? Double big lineups, fam. That's the way the NBA is going, in my opinion. And the New York Knicks have a lot of ways we could play with the double big lineups, fam. That's the way the NBA is going. We're stacking some bigs. We've got Yabusele now, the newest signing. Huck Porty coming back for the sophomore year. Mitch, Cat, James Nagy. I think we're going to go more big, dominate the paint, the glass, but we can also play more fast, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go Knicks, says Anthony Clark. Keith says, I'm not mad at the Brown hiring. He has 4 championships as an assistant. Yep, 2-time coach of the year as well, including the first unanimous coach of the year, 2023-24. Dwayne Lewis says he's going to be a good look. Walter says, I hope they allow him to hire his own staff. So, yeah, Walter, it looks like it's going to be a bit of a mix. We are trying to get James Borrego as an assistant out of New Orleans, but we've got to wait to see how that plays out. But Rick Brunson will stay as some holdover. But I hope that most of all of the Thibodeau assistants are gone. We did hear some reporting yesterday from Mark Stein that some of those assistants are going to stay from the Thibodeau era. Some holdovers, but we got to find out who. And I hope that there is, some new blood, new coaching minds come through for the assistants. Right. Roberto Torres says he coached many high-end players in high situations. Very experienced. Can't throw anything he hasn't already seen. Facts. You're under Steve Kerr. You've coached LeBron, Hall of Famers, Kobe Bryant. I mean, he's been there, done that. Fam. Now, is he ultimately an upgrade over Tibbs? I think it's just how you look at it. Like, it's what he's going to bring to the table. Tibbs is a very, very experienced head coach as well, but he wasn't adaptable. Collaborative with the front office is big time, fam. So let's bring this up now. Just do a little bit of research, history around last season with the Sacramento Kings, the prior season, the 2023-24 season, that Mike Brown was the coach of the year. Let's look at the first 2 columns, the first 2 rows. Sacramento at the top were the 7th ranked team in assist percentage, fam. So this is going back to this is the 23-24 season where Sacramento was Mike Brown was the coach of the year with Sacramento, right? So Sacramento ranked 7th in the league in assist percentage. Where was the New York Knicks? 29, almost dead last at 59.0. Sacramento, 65.4. So ball movement is going to be up. Get prepared for some more ball movement. And as we're about to hit on, pace is about to get up, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to everyone come through the building. Smash that like button. Let us know your thoughts. We're taking a look at some of the success that Mike Brown had with Sacramento and what he's going to bring to the New York Knicks. What change? What difference? What difference is there going to be? Well, ball movement and assists, pace. We have got faster guys. Yabusele is great in transition, and Jordan Clarkson is going to bring some pace as well. So look out for that. We have to get faster. We're played too slow. Right. On that note, we now look at the second, the third, and the fourth row. Sacramento were 14th in the league in pace at 99.46. Just below, the New York Knicks were 30, dead last in pace, ladies and gentlemen, at 95.96. So that's a huge change, man. That's like half the league difference. From 7 to 29 in assist percentage. From 14 to 30 in pace. That's a big change, ladies and gentlemen. What do y'all think? I like this from David M. Salute. We might have the balance that we were looking for in Tibbs. I like it. He's a good coach. Johnny says, CT, Brown must have relationships with the Knicks' current players. Who they be? Yep, let's hit on that in a second. Susan, what's up? The streets are buzzing. Carlo C, is Brown the type of coach that goes deep into the bench? Not super deep, but he will go deeper. Yeah, he will go 9. Will go 9, 10 possibly. But he does play the starters less minutes than Tibbs. So yeah, Richard's onto it, fam. In terms of players, Johnny, definitely Cat, definitely Brunson. I think the relationships go deeper, fam. You know, Brown's been a head coach around when Brunson was on the come up. As well, apologies, guys. I'm just dealing with a bit of a cold, so it might sound a little bit nasal today, but appreciate y'all for rocking with us, man. We've been doing marathon streams over free agency the last 4 days. It's been hype. I'm ready for the season to begin. We got tougher as a squad. We got tougher as a team. And let's take a look at the bottom graph. So this is from last season. So this is last season, the 25-26 season. 24-25, sorry. So this is offensive rating. The New York Knicks were 5. Sacramento, though, with less talent, were 7. Not much of a difference. Knicks were 117. Sacktown was 115.9. But defense, very close as well. Knicks were 113. Sacramento 115. But guess what? The New York Knicks were the 3rd seed. Sacramento, I forget what seed they were, but they were, obviously the coaching change, the turmoil that happened after the change up. So, yeah, very, very strong offensive principles. We will see more player movement, more ball movement, more pace, more assist percentage going all the way up. With the squad, different lineups. These are the 2 starting bench lineups that I've sort of broken up. I think Hart should play more with the bench. I would start with the double bigs. How do y'all feel about that? G Money says, I love Mike Brown. Ruben says, the team is a joke. All right. Let us know your thoughts. Trolling out here. So what else are we going to talk about? Chris Percy-Inen. Good reporting out here for Clutch Points, talking about... have also heard to the extent where Mike Brown was bought in on Brunson and Towns as a duo was notable to the Knicks throughout the interview process. Doesn't mean the Knicks are married to that pairing, but things can change real fast. Yep. His experience. We all know this video went viral. A coach who holds players accountable calls it how he sees it. Malik Monk, right, failing to deliver the instructions, the coaching drill right now. Mike Brown got the full support of the front office now, and full support of James Dolan. Full support of James Dolan now as well. More pick and roll as well. Salute low key. Cat could flourish with Brown here. He will. I mean, Sabonis became an all-star under Mike Brown. The success they had. The ball movement, the pace, seeing the open man, kicking it out to the corners as well. Unselfish basketball, ladies and gentlemen. Too isolation-centric, too slow were a lot of our weaknesses. But we've got some more higher usage players that are skilled offensively. So I think we're in a great position now where we are, going to be playing with so many different lineups to highlight the strengths of the players. but specifically, you got to be great in transition, guys. Look at Indiana. They were dominating in transition. Luke says, offensively, Cat and JB, pick and roll needs to be priority. Yep, shout out. Big up. Just 1 second, guys. 1 sec. Yo, we are back. Appreciate y'all and your patience, man. Let's keep getting through the building. Salute to Isaac. Yeah, we're going to look like the 90s Golden State Warriors. I like that. Now, what do y'all think about potential interest in Ben Simmons? Let's talk about how the Knicks can fill out the rest of their roster. Is there another consolidation move going to come? I think there's a real possibility. The Knicks have checked in on Ben Simmons. We've heard his name in the past. Now, obviously, he's not the Ben Simmons we used to know, man. A whole lot of issues derailing his career right now. But he's still in the league. He's still in the league. Still has a skill set. 6'10". Can put the ball on the floor and play make. And can defend. On a veteran's minimum, what do y'all say? Yes or no? I feel like it's going to be a yes or a hell no. Johnny says, speaking about jokes, no Ben Simmons. Shez V, salute, says no to Simmons. Keith, yep, I agree. Brunson and Cat have a lack of chemistry. It was a lot of I take my turn, you take your turn as well. Now, I guess the best way we can counter that is just split their minutes up. Have Cat as a focal point when Brunson's off the floor. But when they are on the floor, they definitely need to recognize. I use the word recognize where each other are on the floor. You look at Hart and DiVincenzo, and McCall, they always know where each other are on the floor. You see Hart throw these like no look passes to McCall, and McCall do the same thing. The Villanova clique. Brunson and Cat got to deliver that connection. Hopefully year 2, Keith. Those two can find each other. More pick and roll, more pick and pop. What's up, Ed? Says no, please no. So I got some good news for most of the no's, and that is I don't think it's realistic. As Yossi Goslin of the Cap talked about earlier, this is our best pathway, fam, to fill out the rest of the squad. Now you see on the graphic, I've got Landry Shamet there, because there is a pathway to get Landry Shamet on the squad. Here it is. So the Knicks are at 12 spots, 12 guys on the roster now confirmed. But we have to get to 14. So what can happen is one of those 2 players needs to be either a rookie, their first season in the league, or one of those draft picks that we just picked up. Basically, either or. It could be Muhammad Diawara, James Nagy. It could be Kevin McCullough. One of those 3 guys. It can't be Dink Pate because he was undrafted. He'll be an undrafted signing. So it could be Diawara, Nagy, or McCullough. I think it's going to be McCullough. I think, they extended the qualifying offer to Kevin McCullough. So I think he's going to be a guy that they, prefer. I think with the experience, he's 24 now. And then the other spot could be a veteran's minimum guy. They could still do that and squeeze under the second apron, man. We are now capped at the second apron, but we can still, we have to be under it now. Basically, we are capped at the second apron, which means you can't go over. And so I would bring back Landry, possibly another veteran if y'all feel like that could be a better fit. But I think the familiarity, continuity is good. You can never have enough shooting. So yeah, let's get McCullough and Landry on the squad. Now, if Yabusele doesn't take a $30,000 discount, like just 30, he's got to shave about 30, 40,000 off of his contract. We could squeeze all of these two guys in for the start of the season. If we're given Gershon Yabusele the full, taxpayer mid-level, then we have to wait 2 weeks into the season, just 2 weeks into the season, and then we can fit a full veterans minimum and Kevin McCullough under the cap. Um, so that's how it is, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Bondi confirming two major factors that the Knicks saw in Mike Brown, according to a source, was leadership, collaboration. Leadership and collaboration. We obviously got leadership with Thibodeau. Thibodeau did some great things with the media, connecting with the players. Despite the ups and downs, he never really lost the locker room. However, things got a bit bumpy towards the end. But definitely collaboration was something we did not get. We did not get that with Tom Thibodeau, fam. And look at the new age guys that we picked up in terms of Clarkson, Yabusele. They're not Tibbs guys no more, guys. So we're not... Whatever I liked and whatever y'all liked about Thibodeau, the restrictions were tough to deal with in terms of players coming in. If you weren't a Tibbs player, it was guaranteed to blow up, man, like TNT. Cam Reddish, Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, Obi Toppin, to some degree, Mikal Bridges. If there wasn't that strength of the Villanova connection, there could have been more friction. So if you ain't a Thibodeau guy, there was bound to be friction. And so we're done with that. We're done with those restrictions now. We can sign a Yabusele, fast-paced, big man, offensive-minded, shoots threes in volume above the break. Jordan Clarkson as well, another guy, fast-paced, get downhill and get into it. Fam? Some interesting things coming through from Ian Begley as well about Clarkson. And this is what Mike Brown is going to be looking at, guys, with different lineups. Ian says something I found interesting. The Knicks value Yabusele's versatility off the bench, particularly behind the starting lineup of Cat and Mitchell Robinson. Obviously, the Knicks head coach, Mike Brown, will ultimately decide on the rotation and lineups. But the fact that the Knicks factored in Yabusele's role behind the starting lineup featuring Towns and Mitch tells you there is some internal support for that starting five. Ladies and gents. So here we are. I'm going to bring up projected starting five now. That's what I've been talking about for a minute. And I do think it looks like this is going to be it. With these starting five, man. Had a lot of success in the playoffs. And I do think defensively, it's our best chance. Defensively, you've got more help around Brunson. I think Hart's defense is regressing a little bit. I know the story could be with Hart's offense. You need to get him out of the starting lineup. But defensively, Hart's a smaller wing. And we know Mikal Bridges hasn't displayed enough toughness on the perimeter at times. So I think when you're looking at this lineup, you've got Mikal, you've got OG, and you've got Mitchell Robinson to help back up Cat. Hopefully Cat can come out more on the perimeter, some more pick and pops. You got Mitch there for the rebounds as well. See, if Cat, one of the concerns that Thibodeau had with playing Cat at the 5 was that, okay, if Cat's shooting those threes and he's our big man, who's going to grab the rebound? Who's going to grab that rebound if Karl Anthony Towns is at the top of the key? That's why Tibbs is more old school. He loves his big man down in the paint. But if Cat's the power forward, and Mitchell Robinson is Rudy Gobert. He's the one to to gobble up, swallow all those misses, fam. And hopefully with Brunson, Cat, more pick and roll, top of the key. Cat can obviously straight line drive as well, attack closeouts, and obviously Cat can get down low. We'll talk about the LeBron situation brewing as well. Key says Mike Brown holds players accountable. Richard says no to LeBron. Coaches, is this the play for Bron? And what the clutch Leon Rose meeting was all about. I think they're separate, and I'll touch on that in a sec. Prezi, the boss, is loving the graphics. 10-man lineup is going to be beastly. Yeah, Prezi, everyone coming through the building. Just to recap, some stats for y'all real quick. Sacramento were 7th in the league in assist percentage. The New York Knicks were 29th. So the ball is going to move. De'Aaron Fox, a lot of experience with Sabonis. Mike Brown is going to bring that with Brunson and Cat. Also, Sacramento were 14th in the league in pace in the 23-24 season when Mike Brown was coach of the year. The Kings were the 2nd seed out west. The New York Knicks ranked 30, dead last in pace. Also, Sacramento brought the 7th best offense from last season. Not too far. Basically very similar to the Knicks, offense and defense. So yeah, in terms of Leon Rose, Mike Brown relationship, fam, it wasn't just all about clutch. Let me bring this up, y'all. Zach Rosenblatt. Check this out. It says, when I was in high school, the basketball team had a guest speaker brought in by Leon Rose, who was an alum of that former high school. The speaker was Mike Brown. And Leon Rose and Mike Brown, they've been close for a long time. Right. Y'all can't forget Leon Rose's long history before he entered the Knicks president world. Former lawyer, former power agent running CAA. Let's not forget that Leon Rose comes across a lot of people in the basketball industry before he even came to the Knicks. So this is going way back, fam. Zach Rosenblatt, a senior writer of The Athletic, who covers the Jets, man, and the NFL. So I thought this was very interesting, fam. So yeah, anyone that just thinks this was a William Wesley hire, definitely keep this in mind. Definitely keep this in mind. So Leon Rose bringing in Mike Brown to be a guest speaker at a high school. With the spacing lineups, check this out via Synergy Basketball. Gershon Yabusele, he made 43% of his open catch and shoot threes. Shot 79% as well in transition. Man, our offense, man, it's going to be crazy. I think this is going to be the best offense Mike Brown is coached, and probably the New York Knicks will have seen under this lineup. The pace and space with the shooting and the lineups that we're going to have in these lineups, man, it's going to be night and day from what we had with Brunson and Tibbs. Doran Beckford says Brooklyn could only watch right now. We are cheering New York. Let's go. Webb says Summer League going to tell us everything we need to know. I don't know if Mike Brown is going to coach Summer League. Maybe it'll be one of the assistants, but I think, yeah, they will obviously try to deploy some of the looks that we're going to see in the big club. Definitely especially with, this core rotation, fam. This core 10-man. I'd love to see Huck Porty get some regular minutes because I think we're going to play more double big lineups, If Mitch and Cat start together, that opens the door, I think, for more Gershon and Huck. If we ain't going as so big, then I think Tyler Kolek could substitute for Huck, and maybe we play more ball handling, or Landry if he comes back on the squad. Richard at the Knicks time, salute, says Yabu especially good above the arc, which Knicks really, really needed. Yeah. Transition as well. 79% in transition. How many times did we blow a great transition opportunity? 2-on-1, 3-on-2 transitions, turning around to shoot a fadeaway. I'm talking to someone specifically about that. Johnny, who's the current 10-man lineup if Brown does 10? I think you're looking at it. You're looking at it. I back Huck Bordy to get a look under Mike Brown, because you look at Brown's sort of play with Sabonis. I think you could get a similar look with Huck. Great passing in the pick and roll, passing out of the short roll, can play back to the basket a little, lob threat. Huck runs the floor really well. Remember, you got a couple of Gotham lobs from Brunson transition. So I think it depends on our summer league. James Nagy could factor in too. He could get that final 14th spot. It has to be one of those rooks, one of the new rooks. It could be McCullough. Given the fact that he's had a lot of success with obviously Fox as well. Could Tyler Kolek? What do y'all think about that? Loves the assist, the pace, the ball movement. Tyler Kolek could be a guy. I think what I've been told is that one of the mandates coming through from the front office with that collaboration is that Mike Brown has to develop. Whether or not they're getting minutes or a lot of minutes, they have to develop these younger guys. We're right up against the second apron now, fam. So we got a lot of talent. We've got a lot of talent. And now it's, this is the best roster I think Mike Brown will ever coach, has ever coached. Now, for some of those that are lower on Mike Brown, let's look at some people that had Mike Brown as their coach. Let's shout out Warriors World, big time Golden State account, 200,000 followers right now. Die Hard account. Warriors World says good for Mike Brown. Bounces back in a better situation after the Kings did him dirty. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't sound like a fan that's salty. That doesn't sound like a fan that, wants to see a former coach fail. That's someone who appreciates what Mike Brown did for Golden State. 4 championships as an assistant. So he bounces back in a better situation. That's the context. That's the nuance that people need to look at. Whatever Mike Brown was in Sacramento, it was Sacramento. That's like trying to run a 100-meter sprint with 2 weights on your feet. That's like trying to run a marathon, man, with with heavy feet right now. And Mike Brown is in a much, much better situation, with all of his experience. Too. I've also spoken to some Sacramento Kings fans as well, and they agree. Most of them agree that Brown was given a raw deal. You only have to look at their franchise guy, De'Aaron Fox. He's out of there. Those fans don't need to have any loyalty to De'Aaron Fox because he skipped town out of there. He quit. He doesn't have that mindset that Jalen Brunson has, Jalen Brunson is a born winner. College, high school, pros. De'Aaron Fox hasn't shown that he can do that yet. Now, who's the player that I think Mike Brown is going to or has to get the best out of. His name is 3 letters. K-A-T. Cat. I think Mike Brown's greatest accomplishment could be getting through to Cat. Also hiding him on defense. What do y'all think about that? Kevin says Ben Simmons can play stellar D and can dish. What do y'all think? I might be in the minority, but I'd be open to it. I think different role. We're not depending on him. Circumstances are everything. Would I put all my eggs in that basket? Hell no. But I definitely understand if people don't want Ben Simmons. I'm on the fence, but I'd be open to it because I think he can lock down. He can still play defense. He's still got size. In the playoffs, that's going to be important. With that length and size and the different lineups we can throw out there, fam. I thought this was great. The newest Nick, Gershon Yabusele, already trash talking with former teammate Tyrese Maxey. So Yabusele, guys, he's going to bring toughness and he's going to bring winning mentality, right? This is a guy that came into the league at a young age and wasn't ready to make it. Went back to Europe overseas to earn his keep and found his way back into the league. So he knows all about hunger. He knows all about, wanting to stay in the league. And he's already trash talking with Maxey. He says Maxey got a text from Yabusele saying, I'm going to beat y'all 4 times now as well. So Gershon already talking like a New York Knick, ready to beat his former squad now. So Damian Lillard is going to have his pick. I think he'll go to the Golden State Warriors, fam. That'd be kind of cool to see him go back home to Oakland. John Schmelk says Yabusele is a nice ad for the Knicks. Good offensive big man with 3-point range will allow the Knicks to play the same offense when he's in there with Towns. Obviously not the same level of player, but it has the similar skill sets as well. Good depth. The Knicks are better today than they were at the end of the season with Yabusele and Clarkson. A legit 9 guys right now that we can depend on. I agree, 100% agree, and I think more guys that we can depend on. Toughness, winning mindset. Kelly Kell says, I can see it now. Trey Young tries to roll that dice at MSG. Jordan Clarkson steps to him. Hopefully does nothing crazy, but I feel like he's gonna bring the fire in that one at MSG. He's gonna fire the crowd up. I'm not the biggest fan of Sabonis. I would definitely stay clear of Sabonis, fam. I think he has similar issues defensively with his Cat, and I would just see this out with Cat and Brunson, and then hold on to Cat until Giannis. Giannis is that target for me, not LeBron. It's definitely Giannis. We know he likes New York City. We know he likes to hang with the family in New York City, and if and when he's ready to skip Milwaukee, and I think that's coming. You got to be ready. You got to be ready with the salaries. I think a Sabonis is kind of like a backwards, sideways step. We've already got a squad that's capable of winning the number 1 seed. The next move or next major shakeup should only be a home run shakeup. Otherwise, just continue with this core, I think, and just continue to build chemistry. Diehard Knicks fan Ariel Helwani, also MMA journalist, is good friends with Mike Brown, and he's going to have him as a guest on his pod as well. Ariel Helwani's hype. He's good friends with Mike Brown because Mike Brown is a big MMA fan. So Mike Brown, a big MMA fan. Hopefully, we don't see any crazy outbursts, but Mike Brown can do that. We saw the outburst against over the referees. We all saw that, fam. Y'all remember the viral meme that went out here after that game, man, when he was done dirty with the Sacramento Kings. But to some extent, I like that. One thing I didn't like about Thibodeau, man, he didn't get one technical. Very respectful. Put up with a lot of crap. Mike Brown is not going to put up with crap. Right? He's an NBA lifer. He's comfortable in his own skin. He's comfortable being who he is, and he's going to speak up. If he's not comfortable with something, with Malik Monk, if a player's dogging it, if a player's not giving their all, he's going to speak up. Salute to Buzzer Beater joining us in the building. Darren with us breaking news. Frank Vogel is now the Mavs lead assistant. So Frank Vogel trying to squiggle his way back into the league. Fam. DeAndre Ayton, man. Scraps going to LA. Yeah. Also, that other viral situation with Mike Brown, when he talked about repeating himself over and over and over and over and over, and he just kept going, man. He just kept going. So I think press conferences are going to be a hell of a lot more entertaining. I'll say that. Tibbs was very dry in these press conferences. But obviously we've got the core of possibly some Tibbs holdovers coming over. That was the biggest surprise to me. Mark Stein's reporting. Who do y'all think that could be? Could it be Mo Cheeks, Darren Erman, Andy Greer? Could it be Dice Yoshimoto? Is he just talking about Rick Brunson? I'll be okay with that. If it's just Rick Brunson and no one else. But we got to wait to find out. That'll be confirmed very, very soon, fam. Obviously, there will be a major press conference. You hire a brand new coach, there has to be a press conference. Probably be hosted by Alan Hahn, Bill Pito. Mike Brown will speak. Obviously, Leon Rose probably won't speak. But Mike Brown, he'll be the spokesperson right now, like Thibodeau was. So, free agency still going. Reports that the New York Knicks are still talking to some free agents, y'all. And free agents have been asking the Knicks brass about who's the coach. They've been asking who's the coach. So are we still talking to a Ben Simmons? Are we still talking to another veteran that we might try to bring in, right? I think there is a possibility a consolidation trade could be coming. Great question from Lonnie Meek. Salute. Borrego is a guy they like and would love to try to bring in, but unfortunately the holdup is the Pels. The Pels are, they're denying that Borrego goes to, I think another team inquired about Borrego and they denied that as a sideways step. They're only going to give Borrego permission if he's going to be a head coach. And so we might have to bring somebody else in, fam. Do we bring in a Mike D'Antoni as an offensive coordinator? But we'll see. There's another big high-profile assistant come over to the Knicks. David says Mike Woodson could be an assistant, would be good. Looks like Adu Thiero won't participate in Summer League for the Lakers. Still rehabbing. Yeah, I'm not saying Sabonis ain't a great player, man. I like Sabonis. I just think It's too much shuffling of the deck to just be a sideways step. Cat's a third team All NBA player. Make him better. He has his flaws, but that's what a coach is here for. I feel like a coach could have, put Cat in better situations, played better lineups around him as well. He's not a five. Minnesota done told us that by getting Rudy Gobert. And what did Tibbs Stubborn do all season? He kept playing Cat at the five. He waited until Mitch got healthy, all the way in March, and he could have played Huck Porty. He could have played Huck Porty next to Cat just to plan that out. Until Mitchie got back. So the Knicks were 18th in passes per game last year. The Kings under Mike Brown were 4th in 22-23 and 2nd 23-24 as well. So yeah, as I spoke about before, guys, look out for our speed, our pace offensively to increase, and also more passes per game. And I think we'll be a lot better in transition too. So my starting lineup and bench lineup is this: double bigs in both units, protect the hoop, but also floor spacing in both lineups. With Yabusele off the bench with Huck Porty, got a little bit of an offensive game. Just Huck Porty, he's no stiff around the basket, that's for sure. Your nice blend of defense and offense. Off the bench with Huck Porty, Josh Hart, and Deuce McBride. That's 3 solid defenders with 2 offensive-minded players. And in the starting unit, the same thing. 3 defensive-focused players with Mikal, OG, and Mitch to back up the offensive-mindedness of Cat and Brunson. I feel like there's a nice balance with that one. Yeah, Borrego's on the Pels bench right now. Jimmy, salute Optimus 2G. Buzzer asks, or says, the only thing we should be saying to Ben Simmons is no thanks. Yeah. I think CP3's already confirmed. It's been confirmed, Buzzer, that CP3 is going to stay out in LA. La La Land. He's an older guy with some young children now, and he wants to be close to home. So yeah, I can't see CP3 going to Milwaukee. I am hearing that Milwaukee are looking to kick the tires and bring back Malcolm Brogdon. Remember the guy they gave up on? They had success with Malcolm Brogdon, man. They never should have moved on from him, man. Crazy front office. 2 key mistakes that Milwaukee did. They moved on from Brogdon, and they moved on from Dante DiVincenzo. They had 2 great pieces with that situation. Now they got Kyle Kuzma, Ryan Rollins, Gary Harris. They're throwing stuff against the wall right now. Keith got concerns over Cat at the 4 with his being slow to guard 4s. I would prefer that, though, over being slow guarding 5s, and then you leave the hoop wide open. At least if Cat gets blow by, you've got Mitchell Robinson in the dunker spot. Just like Rudy Gobert, a help defender like that. That's just the only way. Cat's a poor defensive player. You just got to do your best to try to hide his weakness, If Trey Young can stay out on the floor, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, all of these good coaches can hide, even worse defenders. You mean to tell me that Mike Brown can't hide or do a better job hiding Cat and Brunson? Tyrese Halliburton as well. A lot of good coaches can hide some of these players. You just got to keep length around them, shuffle it up, play some zone a little bit, man. That's something I'm looking forward to. Thibodeau, I can't stand the fact that he never tried zone. Teams would kill us from 3. The Pacers' kryptonite was the zone. Thibodeau never went that way. Think about the length with Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Mitchell Robinson in a zone, in a 3-2 zone, or a 2-3 zone. Even with Cat's length, as a mannequin, Tibbs, man, I can't understand why he never tried zone. Also, he never picked up full court. We had Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges never tried to pick up the ball handler full court, or blitz or trap. Anytime you trap Halliburton, he was always in trouble. Same with Cade. Cade Cunningham was a walking turnover whenever you brought the double. So yeah, we're reacting to the New York Knicks locking in their head coach, ladies and gentlemen. The circus is over. We've got a coach now. Let's get behind it. I think we'll see a drastic change for some philosophy, some adaptability as well. And we continue, though, with respect to Thibodeau, we'll continue some strong leadership and an experienced voice, a guy that's not going to put up with crap. And he's going to get on these players, going to have full support of the front office now. Also with Dolan, that was key as well, with James Dolan signing off on the deal. Got to be in lockstep. That's the critical thing when you're competing for a championship, from ownership to front office to head coach. You ain't, when the championship is over and everyone's up on the podium, and you see the owner get the Larry O'Brien, and then he passes it down to the general manager or whoever, the president. He passes it down to the head coach. They're always in lockstep. You don't see no divide. When a championship team is receiving that trophy, they're all together. They've got to share the same philosophy. Thibodeau was trying to coach like he was against the front office and all of that, to spite everybody. Thibodeau's mindset was like, I'm doing it my way. To hell with y'all. I'm the guy that's going to get this done. And that was too pig-headed. That was too stubborn. He forgot the team and the people that hired his ass, Leon Rose and Wesley and Dolan gave him that opportunity to return to the New York Knicks. Some of the things they were doing, he threw that back in their face. He went and threw some of those things back in their face, which to me did appear a little bit ungrateful. Tendrell in the house, what's up? Lou Cypher, and we got my guy Yuri Ark in the house. Yeah, less ground and pound, less ISO. Low Key says Worldwide West was close to Mike Brown too. Yeah, and also Leon. And Leon. So I just think Mike Brown, I'm not saying he's a better coach than Tibbs. I think he's more adaptable. And for this roster, we want to go more offensive minded. Tibbs was trying to coach the way he had success. And he has great success with the roster of Dante, Randall, and iHeart. Once those core ingredients left, it's like, he was trying to play the same way with Cat, with those other guys, So you got to switch it up. You got to be adaptable. That's also a part of being a good coach. Thibodeau can win a championship, in my opinion, if you give him all his guys. But that was a problem because you have to find Tibbs guys. You give him prime Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, Hall of Famer Derrick Rose, those type guys, Taj Gibson in his prime. Of course he could get wins, but you can't always find those guys, How many of those guys are rare right now? How many Joakim Noahs are there? Luol Dangs, Derrick Roses. You know, these are the guys we have. So I'm optimistic. Like I said, was it my number one choice? Is it a sexy hire? I don't think so. But I think out of the guys that we were looking at, he brings some of the best similarities from Thibodeau, but with a flexibility element and also a better offense for this roster, in my opinion. Now, James L. Edwards of The Athletic is already talking about the pressure that Mike Brown's going to be under. But with that said, guys, I think this is going to be the best roster that he's had. Look at that Kings roster that he got to the 2nd seed out west. You can't tell me that roster is better than the one we have. You know, they had Malik Monk, Fox, Sabonis, Trey Lyles, Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis. They had Kevin Huerter, I think, as well. I mean, he overachieved big time. He overachieved big time with that roster right now. And he's with that said, I don't think De'Aaron Fox or Sabonis, especially right now, I don't think they're going to be Hall of Famers. With this roster right now, he has a chance to be coaching, two potential Hall of Famers. Definitely one. I feel like Brunson is definitely going to be a Hall of Famer right now on his trajectory. Lou says Mike Brown was a retread like Tibbs was. I think you can't just discard, though, the experience and the winningness that he's had. You bring in a Johnny Bryant or someone who hasn't won before, you leave yourself for a risk. And I think the front office wasn't prepared to take that risk, ultimately. Optimus says, bottom line, Knicks outgrew Tibbs. Yeah, most definitely. Minno B agrees. Yeah, I've been over Tibbs. Glad he's gone. Not big on this Mike Brown signing either, but we'll see real soon what he can do. Yeah. Look, I think we even by default we got better because the roster is a lot better than last season. Now Thibodeau's probably sitting at home right now thinking, man, like y'all couldn't give me the depth pieces like this last year. For that some point, I'll be willing to listen to Thibodeau because I feel like Leon Rose wasn't aggressive enough at the trade deadline. You saw what the playoffs, how fine of the margins they were. If we had got a decent piece at the trade deadline, that could have meant the difference between beating Indiana. The bounce of a basketball was the difference between playing in the NBA Finals. What did they get Thibodeau? They got him DeLon Wright and sent Jericho Sims out. I felt like the front office could have done something more, but they were obviously patient. They were like, let's wait till the off season and then we'll bring in some of these guys. But now we've upgraded the roster big time. Jimmy says, I'd love to get Chris Boucher, but I think he'll want more than the vet min. Yeah, we'll see. I think as the money dries up, fam, there will be some opportunities to maybe get a steal. Now, how would y'all feel about this hire if we added James Borrego, another younger-minded, high-quality assistant, head coaching, material to the squad? In fair play to the Knicks, man, they were trying. They're trying to add James Borrego with Mike Brown. You got to salute the hustle because they understand Mike Brown ain't perfect. The more creative minds and the more experience you can add to the mix. Now, make no mistake, I respect Woody, I respect Kenny Payne, I respect Rick Brunson and that for what they can do, but They shouldn't be They shouldn't be head assistants. Ideally, if you're trying to win a championship, your right hand man should be head coach material. Head coach material. I think. Richard says yes to Borrego. Yep, most def. Yeah, we had a worse bench. Yeah, we did. We had a tough bench, man. We're relying off scraps, campaign, DeLon Wright. To those guys' credit, they battled, but yeah, limitations killed us. Precious as well. We did get a little cheap in the off season. Waiting forever for Precious Achiuwa to come back and agree to take $6 million off the Knicks. I think we could have got a little bit more aggressive, maybe try to get more creative. But yeah, there is no coach out there that's perfect, guys, as well. So yeah, I respect your opinion. If you're for or against the hire, we'll see how this plays out. But I think the Knicks have got a guy that they're comfortable with. A lot of y'all want Spoelstra. There are Heat fans that want Spoelstra out of there. Golden State fans, some of them want Steve Kerr out of there. Some of these old head coaches, man, they can grow heavy on you sometimes. It might look pretty from the outside, but once you get down with some of these coaches, you start to see their bad habits come in as well. I like Amir Coffee. Yep, sign me up. Sign me up for Amir Coffee. Let's take a look at some of the names out here. I know Dante Exum is off the board now. Rumors he was choosing between 3 teams. I'll be interested to see if any of those teams were out east. But I don't know why he's going back to Dallas, man. I think he could earn more minutes. But yeah, I think we got more scrappy. Guys, we got tough mentally. We got a guy like Jordan Clarkson who will step to you. Gershon Yabusele, man, body slammed Dante Exum in the EuroLeague game. Dunked all over LeBron James and taunted him during the Olympics. These guys are they're going to mix it up. I think the practices are going to be awesome. Mike Brown is feisty. Mike Brown does like to to yap as well on the sideline as well. I think Mike Brown could get a lot out of Tyler Kolek, and I think he could get something out of Ariel Hukporti as well. So, cautiously, high on that situation for 2 reasons. Because, he coached De'Aaron Fox, to being the All-NBA guy that he is, All-Star. I think development is going to be great for Tyler Kolek. Thibodeau wasn't focused on that as much. That wasn't his priority. His priority was, how can I squeeze as much out of Jalen Brunson to carry us to the promised land? But Thibodeau wasn't thinking about tomorrow. Tyler Kolek is a guard of the future, and we have to work on his development. Another guy is Ariel Hukporti, man. For some of the good things that Tibbs is, man, his talent evaluation can stink at times, and he was playing Jericho Sims ahead of Ariel Hukporti, for most of the season. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think with the success Sabonis had under Mike Brown, who knows, we might even continue to keep Mark Bryant, the big man coach, that might continue to work with our guys. We might bring Kenny Payne back. What do y'all think about that? I think Kenny Payne is done with Louisville. William Wesley could be looking to get his boy back on the staff and working with some of these bigs. Kenny Payne, man, he was behind the Julius Randle, renaissance, and Julius pays Kenny Payne a lot of props. We need a guy that's going to turn Ariel Hukporti, man, into the next Sabonis. Luke C in the building. Let's get it. Bodega says, what I find intriguing about Brown is his time coaching the Spurs under Pop from 2000 to 2003, where he received his first of 4 rings. His military background will benefit this team. Yeah, he is hard-nosed for sure. You know, he was hard on Malik Monk, hard on some of the senior players too. I think he will hold Josh Hart more accountable. You know, that's another thing that I didn't appreciate with Thibodeau. And there were a lot of things I did appreciate, guys. I've already said I think all coaches have flaws, but it's all about what's best for us now. And Hart playing 39, 40 minutes, right? You could be comatose and still recognize that Hart shouldn't have been playing 40 minutes a night, man. But that was Tibbs's guy. You know, he was going to go down with his guy. You know, his guys. But we've got to be more accountable. It don't matter who your name is right now. It doesn't matter what the player has accomplished. You mentioned Pop, Bodega. One of the things I really respected about Pop was, you know, it was his way or the highway. You know, it don't matter if your name was Tim Duncan, one of the greatest power forwards in NBA history, Hall of Famer. It don't matter who you are. You know, he'll sit you on the bench. You know, we need that accountability because it don't matter how good you are. Everybody has a bad day. You know, you got to recognize as a coach, hey, the game ain't going the way we need it to go. Right? You're my guy, but have a seat. You know, you're not having a good day. You know, we could all have a bad day. You know, but just continue to leave the guys out there on the court and fail is kind of failing them. You know, as a head coach, you're the guy that's supposed to be pulling the strings. You know, and seeing what's happening. That's why Rick Carlisle is a great coach as well. You know, he was able to recognize, hey, I could get a little bit out of you know, Shepard. I could get a little bit out of Tony Bradley. You know, I could get a lot more out of TJ McConnell. And, you know, he was flexible as well. D. Grant says, I can see Mike Brown and Josh Hart having heated arguments. Definitely. But if it's in the spirit of competition, I respect that. Jimmy says Fox and Bron got Brown fired for benching them. Yeah, my thing about Sacramento is it's Sacramento. You know, the ownership is crazy. You know, for all of the bad rep that Dolan gets, that, you know, their ownership is got a quick trigger. You know, a quick trigger finger, and because they can't fire all the players. You know, they know their roster is Juju, but you know, it's easier to fire Mike Brown than it is to get rid of all their trash. But, you know, they ended up trading De'Aaron Fox anyways. A lot of the respect I put in is the fans' voice. You know, you listen to Sacramento fans, a lot of them were like, yeah, Mike Brown got a raw deal. Same with Warriors fans as well. We'll see because call-outs is coming. Level 40 says it's a players' league. Cat is going to cry. Let him cry, you know. I think you got to empower the head coach to a certain degree. But yeah, it's definitely something to pay attention to because Wesley did rally the players' voice to be heard towards Dolan about Tibbs, and he might do the same again, you know, in the future. Wesley's the player confidant, for those that don't know, man. Wesley's boys with everybody, but he's more of that player confidant. You know, knows what the players are talking about around the league, knows who they're feeling, who they're not feeling. We all know that player survey that had Thibodeau ranked, you know, in the last least desirable coach that players want to play for. I'm pretty sure William Wesley was putting that up on the wall when he was talking to Dolan and Leon. Um, and look, I'm not putting this at the feet of Thibodeau. I think that would be too crazy. But with Tibbs gone, we will see which players that wouldn't have came earlier, and which more be open minded to coming. Whether that is a couple of vets that we picked up on the cheap, whether that is a LeBron James, another guy, Ben Simmons. There are some players that probably wouldn't have taken the minimum with the Knicks. Maybe they'll be open to doing that now. Um, we'll see about that. Um, Ruben Nunes says World Wide West got too much power. I think you just have to look at West like he's a real high-ranking executive in the front office. It'd be no different to if Scott Perry or another huge executive would be in the front office. He's Leon's boy. They're a duo. He's a duo. I know he don't really have an official. He's not as official in capacity, but he's high ranking, man. It don't get much higher. It's Dolan, Leon, and then Wes. I think Wes is ahead of Gerson Rosas. I think Gerson Rosas is doing more of the experience stuff, the day-to-day, the phone calls, the trade discussions, and that. But Wesley's more in the Presidente suite. With Dolan and Leon. Keep it thorough. What's good? Brown will make the Knicks an offensive menace and will use all his players correctly. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm staying optimistic about it. Appreciate the comments, guys. You are on fire tonight. Got the streets buzzing as the New York Knicks have an official head coach. That is a weight off our shoulders, at least. I hate the whole process of continuing to interview and the uncertainty with the free agents and the players. Yeah, it was nigh time to lock somebody down, man. Can't believe it's already like July 3rd, and we're going to be rocking Summer League in less than a week, or about a week. Yuri Ark, my guy with the super chat, let's go. People want to judge and be general managers. I look at it like this. The players wanted a new voice, and they got it. This is not a crybaby roster. They can handle Mike Brown. Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. I feel like the players, yeah, they wear this as well. They know that they got close last year. They know they got super close, and they know they probably made a lot of errors. And it's unfair to just blame Thibodeau on not beating Indiana. But I also feel like the players got to take accountability now. Understand that one coach has been fired, a brand new coach is coming in. Give him the respect. Listen to his input philosophy now, looking from the outside, and be open to letting him make you better. Sometimes you do got to be humbled a little bit when a new voice comes in, because hey, these guys are prideful. They're veterans. They're going to be like, I know everything there is to know about my game. But if you want to improve, you want to get better as a player, you have to listen. You have to listen to what a coach is going to say, and whether or not you really believe it or not, you just have to buy in and see the results. See the results. But in terms of what you're saying about the players, I feel like a lot of senior players were definitely open for the new voice. I think OG Anunoby, McCall, possibly some of the end of the bench guys were more open for that. Who knows what Cat really thinks? I think that's a good talking point. A lot of people making up fake rumors that Cat got Tibbs fired twice. We don't know that, man. That's not verified. Cat seemed to be very respectful with Tibbs and making it work for the second time. And Cat was obviously not great defensively, man, but he was botching a lot of assignments. But that's what he is. Um, Buzzer says, CT, I noticed McCall doesn't dive for those loose balls, play physical D, or fight for those rebounds. Why? Is that why he's never injured? I think there's some small percentage, that plays a part. Definitely plays on the perimeter and plays less physical, and that could be one of the reasons why he's able to stay more healthy. You know, it's probably not a huge reason because freak injuries can happen. He could still roll his ankle. He could still, you know, uh, bump into someone and get hurt. But with McCall, I do think that it's just the type of player that he is. I think he was labeled as a defensive, tough-minded defender, but he was more of the perimeter, passing lanes kind of guy, help defender kind of guy. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to some player development as well because look, we're done talking about Tibbs enough, but moving forward, whether Tibbs was still here or not, we all agree that it was important for some of our younger core players to start to get an opportunity because we see now this year we can only roster like 14 guys, with the salaries going up. Later in the season, we could add a 15th guy once the days pass on the calendar year on the CBA. But right now, finding guys who can contribute from the end of the bench and guys that can grow and develop, hopefully into being a starter or a regular rotation guy, is going to be key. Big time. I mean, you paid Tyler Kolek, like I said last night, you paid him the highest second round contract in franchise history, guaranteed money. We basically paid him first round draft pick money in the second round. Now give him a shot. He's our real true playmaker on the squad. Deuce and Clarkson will play bulk of the minutes. And Clarkson's an underrated pass guy. He can play make. 4 assists for 2 turnover ratio. He'll find guys at the hoop for the lobs. He'll find guys in the corners as well. Does JC, but Tyler Kolek is a real pass first guy. Let's see what he's got in summer league, guys. Throw out a stat line for Tyler Kolek for summer league. We know he's going to start. We know Tyler Kolek is going to get that starting role to run the summer league squad. Probably going to play 28 to 30 minutes. Let us know what you want to see from Tyler Kolek, fam. I would love to see. I think he's capable of double-double. I think he's capable. I would love to see, 12 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds. Maybe half a steal. So 12 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds. I think that'd be solid, man. Flirt with a double-double. Is that too low, too high? What do y'all think about that? Jimmy says Ben Simmons for the vet min would help our D. His health is the issue. Yeah, mindset as well. Esco 28 says I still think we could do with a ball handler to help Brunson. I think Clarkson is going to do a lot of that. I've been watching a lot of film. Like I said, I think he got close to 4 assists. So hopefully less tunnel vision. Jimmy says Kolek will shine now. Jay says hard pass on bum Simmons. Yeah. I think we could go other ways with that spot. Jabari Walker is a good shout. Amani Bates. We could go Chuma or Keke and bring some guys' former favorite G League Nick. Okay, we got some updates. We got some breaking news from Shams, fam. The New York Knicks were among contenders that had interest in free agent big man DeAndre Ayton. Wow. So the Knicks had interest in DeAndre Ayton, man, for the vets minimum. Have checked in on Ben Simmons. It's official, man. We're operating with a new scope. Without Tom Thibodeau here, those players would not have come. Those players wouldn't have even been looked at with Tibbs here, man. Tibbs would have had a fit with DeAndre Ayton, man. Those are facts. So, yeah, the Knicks are open-minded, and they're looking at players that maybe they weren't looking at before. I'll tell you, if the Knicks had got DeAndre Ayton for a vet's minimum, where does he fit? Does that mean Mitch would have been on the block? But how do you fit Cat, Mitch, Gershon, Yabusele, Ayton, Hakporty? That's too much of a log jam, in my opinion. Yeah, agree, Keith. I think we dodged that bullet. Yeah, agree. Eckham Joe, I think Ryan Dunn was the pick. I like Tyler Kolek, and I want to see him get a shot. But if I'm to do that draft all over again, yeah, I definitely select Ryan Dunn. I think he was what what the team needed. He can positionless defender. He could guard 1 through 5, and he's going to be a beast, a defensive menace once he continues to get older and develop. But with that said, we're in a good spot now because we picked up McCullough. We got Diawara and Dink Pate. Those guys could fill that void, you know. I'm very high on Kevin McCullough, guys. I'm very high. I think the organization really likes him as well. He would have gone much higher in the draft. He's a stout perimeter defender. Like I think people just haven't really recognized yet because we haven't seen him enough. But I do think K-Mac is gonna really get people hyped when it comes to Summer League and seeing what he can do. He's, in my opinion, in terms of NBA ready, he's above Pacome Dardier and McCullough and Kolek now. McCullough got a triple double late in the season with the G League, 20, 10, and 10. He's a Josh Hart light, but can finish better at the rim, can shoot better as well. Might even be a better perimeter defender with his long wingspan, and he's 6'6" as well, guys. So that could be our defensive wing that we need to load up on. Yeah, this could be a possibility, Lonnie. Kolek's larger salary is prime for a trade filler. Yeah, possibly, fam. I would not be shocked if Kolek, Deuce McBride, or Mitch get traded at some point because we're so close up against the second apron. We might be looking to do a consolidation. Bodega says, I would love to see him get to the line more as well. Yep, facts. Yep, get to the line, shoot more free throws too. What do y'all think about the asking price of Walker Kessler, man? Danny Ainge still asking for 2 firsts. Right. He could have got a first for Jordan Clarkson and kept on to that, man. He held on to that for too long and ended up having to buy out Jordan Clarkson, man. Jazz fans are confused. They could have got a first-round draft pick at the deadline for Clarkson, but right now they're still holding on to Walker Kessler, and right now no one's going to give 2 first-round picks for him. I'm cool with that because we've got Hakporty on the cheap. He can do the job. We've got Mitch still here. Make the most of those guys. So look at the shooting numbers that Yabusele brings, man. Almost 80% in transition as well. No more screwing up a transition basket is what I'm hyped about. And only averaged 3.1 assists to only 1.8 turnovers per 40. So you look at Precious Achiuwa and Josh Hart's turnovers, I think we are going to see an improvement in that. Isaac says Ainge is a bum. Jimmy says Ainge is lost, man. The thing is, out in Utah, it can he thinks that he can just do whatever he likes, but they're a losing franchise, No one's really trying to deal with them. Yeah, Keith says, I worked in blizzards in North Dakota and the oil field, and Aiton wouldn't even drive to practice in the snow. I remember that, fam. I think he was just trying to get out of there. But yeah, some of that is soft, Darren says, I do sense a trade happening at some point, CT. Yeah, who do y'all think? Could be at the trade deadline even, when the value's the highest. Or is it saving our chips for Giannis or LeBron? Fam, the fact that we got Mike Brown and another clutch client is only going to, add fuel to that fire right now. D. Grant says the Knicks are not going to trade Mitch. Fair play to the front office in terms of their patience, because all of the, injuries and longest tenured Nick, been here, huge playoffs. I mean, respect to Mitch, what he's been able to do. I think the extension coming up is going to be key. What's that extension look like with Mikal Bridges and Mitch? I mean, you can only speculate until those extensions get made. They're going to be free agents, and we all know what the Knicks hate is one of their own free agents, becoming available. So it's either lock them down or sign and trade to try to get something, for them. Because they're key assets. They're big time assets when you're trying to win a championship. When it comes to Mitch and Mikal, I mean, two of our better defenders as well. If we are going to tap into a full offense first, philosophy, the more defenders we have, the better, man. You got to find ways to hide Cat and Brunson. Otherwise, we're going to get lit up in the playoffs. But one thing I do want to say is that when y'all talking about, or some of y'all are worried about us going too offensive minded, if you look at the playoffs, when you're scoring, when the opponent's having to pick the ball out of the basket, what does that mean? That means you can get back in transition. That helps your defense as well. So being a better offensive team actually helps your defense as well. How many of those long rebound bricks or turnovers ended up in Indiana scoring an easy basket? If we're simply more efficient or taking care of the basketball and scoring more points, Indiana and the opponents having to pick the ball out of the basket, and our guys can get back in transition. So just by default, you're a better team overall if you're just scoring the basketball. And obviously it doesn't hurt to outscore the opponent, because that's how winning is done. Anytime you outscore your opponent, you win. You win the ball game. So I know people say defense wins championships. Well, yeah, offense helps as well, man. Look at Kobe. Look at LA. Look at Kobe Bryant. He wasn't, the best defender out here either. Put the ball in the bucket. And they got a few championships to go with it, man. Yeah, I do hope Mike Brown extends the rotation. We'll see. D says if Knicks traded Mitch, who will play the 5 you can depend on in the playoffs? Huck Porty's not ready. Yeah, I feel like they would try to get someone, on the cheaper, like Nick Richards or someone, you know. They were looking at DeAndre Ayton on the cheap. I think this front office is more opportunistic, where they're like, okay, if we lose a guy that we don't want to lose, let's sign a replacement that's cheaper, and then we can add money somewhere else. I think it's no longer just about talent pickups, talent evaluation. With the new CBA, it's just about business as well as players, on the court. Um, cap maneuvering and management is key. Look at the two teams in the NBA Finals. I think there were two of the lowest payrolls in the NBA. OKC and Indiana had two of the lowest payrolls, which means they were able to go deeper in their rotations. Deeper talent, younger talent as well on the cheap. I think the days of overpaying these old heads are gone, man. You're not going to win a championship if two or three guys are, eating up all of your money. Like look at Milwaukee, man. They've got Miles Turner, they've got Giannis, and they've just got a bunch of stiffs right now. They're just trying to coddle together a starting five. Because they're paying, they're boarding out Damian Lillard. Um, I know, Miles Turner doesn't earn all of their money, but Giannis and Damian Lillard gets injured now, that you're screwed. So I think you got to distribute the money evenly, so that if one or two dudes gets injured, you can keep going. You can keep going. Um, that's ultimately why I'm not for a LeBron trade. LeBron the talent, LeBron the basketball player, I would welcome that. You know, I'm not a big LeBron guy, but I desperately want to win. But at $50 million for his age, no, it's a hard no for me, man. If he signs for the minimum, absolutely, it's a no-brainer. That's why the Clarkson thing, a lot of people have come around to that. It's different when you're giving up a first-round draft pick to get Clarkson on his contract, but it's different to getting him on a veteran's minimum. You know, that look at how we've been able to add depth. Yabusele is not a expensive player. He's 5 million. Clarkson's a minimum. Last year you can't do these moves because of the CBA. You know, so you can't be giving out these bad contracts, man. Um, that's why Brunson is smart, super smart. He recognized, along with his family, Brock Aller as well. If he was to kill the Knicks in terms of take the maximum money, the Knicks would be in a far difficult financial position. And hopefully Mikal Bridges recognizes that our best shot to win is to take a discount. Yeah, Bron won't take the minimum unless he's bought out, because a buyout means you get your money. You know, the player still gets their money if they're bought out, but the new team that you go to can sign you on the minimum. That's why some players are open to the buyout. Now, if LA can't find a trade partner, and they clash, it's going to be a buyout. The Lakers don't want no disgruntled LeBron on the team if they're trying to build around Luka. And I think, respectfully, there is a chance there could be a buyout between the two, simply because I don't think there's going to be a trade market. I don't know who's going to give up $50 million in salaries, for a 41-year-old now. So yeah, for a long time, Kobe had a reputation not being a great defender. In his prime, he could obviously, lock in, but especially in his older days, man, Kobe was just offensive first. Um, Yeah, y'all, understand what I'm saying about LeBron and the minimum, man. If he gets bought out, he'll sign for the minimum, right? He's on a $50 million contract, right? He's 41 years old. He's not he's not signing for the minimum as a free agent, but if he gets bought out right now, y'all could have said the same thing 12 months ago about Clarkson. Clarkson's not a minimum guy. But we got him on the minimum, fam. Damian Lillard's not a minimum guy. Some team is about to get him on a minimum, right? Y'all know how it works. Um, no, I disagree, fam. Respectfully, Ransom, man. Uh, I don't think Kobe is looked at as a defensive player, man. He was a turnstile for a large part of his career. Uh, early days, early days, I think he was okay. Yeah, man. Kobe wasn't caring about playing D. Later in his career, man. Maybe sort of after sort of 33, 34. Um, yeah, Damian Lillard, I think is going to go somewhere where he can compete. But the sad thing is, Dame is going to be out for like, I don't know how long. Those Achilles is tricky, especially at his age. Uh, some of y'all were maybe upset that Jaren Jackson got re-signed. Some of y'all would have loved to see him get swapped with Cat. Jaren Jackson is a much better two-way player, but I feel like he also has similar issues staying out of foul trouble. So I wasn't the biggest Jaren Jackson guy, to be honest. I'm not a big Sabonis guy either right now. I think we're okay with Mitch at the 5. Continue to develop Hakporty, and I'll see, who else is available coming through. But yeah, that Mitch extension is going to be tricky with Mikal and Mitch. Lillard going to go to Golden State. Keep it thorough says, in the beginning, Kobe was pure offense. And Ransom says, I probably never watched Kobe. Yeah, you're just making things up now, fam. You think I never watched Kobe? Come on, man. Come on. Kobe's literally on he's on national TV most of the time, fam. D Grant says, well, CT, I'm going to say this. If you replace Mitch, Knicks better get someone who do the same thing he does on the court. Mitch, when healthy, is the best rim protector in the league. Yeah, I think coaching and styles factor in a lot. The double big lineups coming in more of a renaissance now with the big man. But Mitch has just got to develop more of a well-rounded game, like hit free throws and get a little baby hook. You can't just be a lob threat, in my opinion. Now, like it's tough. Now he is elite at offensive rebounding, putbacks, got great hands, safe hands. But those kinds of things, I do think that Mitch's free throw percentage has to go up, for him to stay on the floor, right? If you can't stay on the floor late in a playoff game, it's tricky. Neymar says, do you think Knicks bring in Giannis? I'm worried about what the packages are going to be like, even if, I think the only chance the Knicks could have to get Giannis is we wait another year and we can trade 2 picks. After the draft in the following calendar year, we could get we could trade 2 first-round picks, and maybe Giannis has to say, New York, get me there. But I think other teams can put together a great package. I don't know if the Celtics will get Dame, but yeah, I think Dame's defensively challenged. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, I think Kobe was defensively challenged late in his career. Early in his career, he was better. I don't think he was an awful defender earlier in his career, but I think later in his career, he was definitely more, offensive focused and and dynamic that way. Obviously, injuries, wear and tear does play a part. Um, Bol for the vet min. Yeah, I do agree. Something just looks a little bit off with the rest of the bench. Like it's just all young guys, and I know financially we're in a tough spot, but the fact that we're still talking to some free agents that, are asking about our coach situation, I wouldn't be surprised if there's one more trade. I won't be surprised if there isn't a trade, but just something just feels a little bit off, with Dardier, McCullough, and Tyler Kolek as like 11, 12, 13 guys, Um, that's a lot of inexperience, right? We have a very good 10-man rotation with experience, but the 11, 12, 13th guy, it just, and if they want to develop them, I'll be happy. But the fact that they're still talking to Ben Simmons and some other vets, DeAndre Ayton, you know, that tells me that maybe they're looking to make some kind of consolidation, possibly. What do y'all think? Um, Julian says, I low key think Knicks are going to get LeBron. Yeah, I don't know if that day will ever come, man. It's been flirted with for like 10 years, and we are in a different situation now where finally LeBron isn't a team's priority, And I think that's the only reason this is a legit talking point, that LeBron is, he's kind of like towards the very end of his career now, but LA are trying to move on without him. So yeah, I think there's a real possibility he goes out east. The Knicks might not be the number one choice out east. It might be Cleveland again. What do y'all think about him going to Cleveland again? That'd be crazy. Yeah, what I really meant about Kobe, fam, is I said that he's not known as a defender, in my opinion, and maybe my opinion's very different to others. But when people think about Kobe, it's all about offense. I don't think people looked at Kobe like as a defensive guy. He's not known as a defender, in my opinion. Kobe's known as one of the greatest scorers of all time. You know, maybe that's just his reputation, but yeah, later in his career, man, he was a poor defender. That's the point I'm trying to argue, man. Y'all are trying to argue 24, 23-year-old Kobe. Fair enough. Kobe played for basically a decade after 30 as well. That's the Kobe I'm remembering the most. You know, post 30, and obviously wear and tear was a big factor on that as well. LeBron ain't going to China, man. LeBron gonna try to start his own league. I bet, man. Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, LeBron James, man. They're gonna buy Vegas, or they're gonna buy some team. You know, when they hack a Mitch, we can switch to Cat Yabu now. Yeah, great one. Yeah. Christie says Kobe was 12 times all D as a guard, 9 times all D. Yep. Well, that's not what I recognize Kobe as. I recognize him as a shoot first, shooting guard. Um, but yeah, early in his career, he was a good defender, a solid defender. But later in his career, man, it dropped off. It dropped off a cliff, fam. That's what I'm trying to argue. If y'all trying to argue that Kobe was a good defender at 35, 38, then watch the film again, man. His defense dropped off a cliff. LeBron to the Celtics, LeBron China. Um, how do y'all feel about Bronny James coming as well, man? That was crazy. Is he going to wait for Bryce James to get into the league? Now, in terms of offense and defense, right, we're tapping into more of an offensive lineup. But the spacing, what does that mean for Josh Hart, guys? What does that mean for Josh Hart? Thibodeau, obviously, is a guy that rocked with Josh Hart, played him more than probably most coaches would have. But I think Hart's efficiency could go up, less turnovers, as he's going to be less gassed. I think Hart's play will be more consistent off the bench, but with more spacing, more of these spacing lineups. D. Grant says, I think Bryce James has more of an upside than Bronny. Christy says, Josh Going, he's a Tibbs disciple. Ransom says, you never said old version of Kobe, buddy. It's okay to be wrong. Maybe I didn't clarify. I didn't clarify what I was saying earlier, fam. But yeah, I was just trying to say that I don't think Kobe was as recognized as a defender, you know. I mean, he's an All-NBA, a Hall of Famer, as one of the greatest scorers ever. But yeah, I don't think of Kobe as a two-way guy when I think of him. I just think of him as a bucket, you know. Dale Mara says, hey, what's good? Now, look, yeah, when we're talking about a consolidation trade, guys, I think there's a lot of salaries. That could be the guy. Hart's earning $18 million. Not going to say he doesn't deserve that, because you look at some of the guys that got paid. Hart earning $18 million. You know, Kyle Kuzma's making more than that. So, but when you're trying to add more depth, Mitchell Robinson, $15 million. Hart, $18 million. Mikal Bridges, extension coming up. OG Anunoby's earning $42 million. I know some of y'all may not want anyone traded, but if there is one guy that does get traded to consolidate and add some financial flexibility, who would y'all talk? Who would y'all see getting put in a trade? Vaughn, what's up? Chris Gotti, salute. Knicks finally have a deep bench. It's exciting. 100%. Tay says Kobe is called a ball hog, but he averaged 5 assists for his career as a shooting guard. Yeah, look, you know, he moves the ball, you know, open man, but he shoots high volume. That's why he was called a ball hog. You know, shooting high volume with that situation. D. Grant says, yeah, Prime Kobe was a two-way player, but by the end of his career, he was more of an offensive player. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, later in his career, he wasn't known as a defender, you know. He was definitely getting blown by, exposed a lot, fam. I mean, you know, and maybe I'm looking at too late in his career and not giving him enough respect for earlier in his career. That's possible. But yeah, definitely the latter stage of his career. Yeah, with KD, LeBron, that's the thing. Like Christie, I think with the risk, you know, the salaries that they're making, it was hard to pull off the trades. You know, I think giving up pieces for a 37-year-old, 39, 40-year-old. If you could guarantee that we traded for KD and get good 5 years out of it, I think that's well worth it. If you could trade for LeBron at 36 and know that you're going to get 3-4 good years, I think that's less of a risk. But right now, it's tricky knowing that it might be 1 year, it might be only 2 years, and then, you know, they might, you know, not be available enough. I don't know if the Rockets wanted OG. You know, that was someone I was looking at sending to Houston, but they've got Tari Eason, they've got Jabari Smith, they've got Dorian Finney-Smith now. They stacked up their wings. So I think maybe Mikal Bridges might have got it done, and another guy. Okay, we got some updates on CP3. Tim Reynolds and the media reporting that CP3 is hoping and wants to be a starter on a team that he signs for. Let me pull this up. This is a surprise to me. Chris Paul, at 40 years old, wants to be a starter, we're told, which is part of the reason why he evidently hasn't made up his mind yet. Clippers still very hopeful he picks them. What do y'all think about Delano Banton? Imani Bates? That could be one of the reasons the Knicks do a consolidation trade. They could add a couple of more veterans, possibly, and get to that 15th spot. They were looking at Ben Simmons, looked at DeAndre Ayton. There's still some good veterans out there. Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Walker I like. Yeah, exactly, D. CP3 can't be demanding to be a starter at 40 years old, man. Even if his game is still high quality, and it's still very high quality, but you can't, as a franchise trying to win, you can't put all your eggs in a 40-year-old starting. Man, you need a better plan. You know, what's he going to play? 60, 65 games, maybe at best. The KD thing, man, yeah, there was a lot of mixed messages. I think his agent, Rich Kleiman, is obviously, a big-time Knicks fan, was always trying to get KD over to the Knicks. KD just doesn't seem to be down with it personally. He's a West Coast guy. I get it. Always taking the easy route. Same with LeBron, man. The thing is, one of the reasons, guys, why we're now an attractive, sexy destination is because we took the long route. We built this thing from the ground up. I don't need to rely on these older heads to come here and finally choose us to help us. Right now, these guys were seeing what we were doing in the playoffs. Now they want to be part of the hive. They want to join the wave, and we're building this from the ground up with good depth. Now we got that depth, and that could take us back to square one. A lot of our guys off the bench could start. Deuce McBride is a capable starter, in my opinion. We all know Josh Hart is a borderline starter as well. People talking about Yabusele able to play starters minutes. Jordan Clarkson started a whole lot of games for Utah and Utah over the last 2 seasons. He could run the point a little bit and capable starter as well. So that's depth, guys. That's our bench could legitimately dominate some of the other benches out here. Yeah, defense, we do need to lock in a bit more. I'll be interested to see how Mike Brown can work around Brunson and Cat. Do you separate the two a bit more and play less minutes together? Or do you just save that for the playoffs? Because those two together in the regular season, that's enough to win us a lot of ball games. I think we've added more toughness now. When we talk about toughness mindset wise with Mike Brown, Yabusele, and Clarkson, those guys really like to compete. They're real competitors, and they like to win. Obviously, they chose the Knicks, I think, because they want to win. Yeah, Optimus, nothing team oriented about Bron and KD. They're used to having it all around them. Right now this is Brunson's team and Cat's team. We've got some nice role players around them. I do want us to tap into more OG Anunoby though, and I think we will when we look at this graph and the shooting and the passing that the Knicks provide. The Knicks were 18th in passes per game last season. Under the Kings, Mike Brown had the passing 4th in the league, 2nd in the league, and with the 5-out lineups now, with I assume less Josh Hart. We don't know. Mike Brown might just share the same philosophy with Tibbs and understand that Hart brings a lot, rebounding, toughness as well. But I would anticipate that Hart's minutes go down at least a little bit. I would anticipate that Hart's minutes go down a bit, right? It's hard to expect Hart's minutes to stay at 35 a night. Do y'all agree with that? What's a good number for Hart's minutes? 26? 28? So DeAndre Ayton got paid 2 years, $16 million, man. So he took more than the minimum. We see Gambo report out of Phoenix that Austin Reeves and LeBron don't like playing with Luka. Man, some of these reports coming out are just crazy. Salty as well. We had reports that LeBron and Reeves don't like playing with Luka. Some other reports from other veterans coming out. Yeah, Cat's got to put up more threes, definitely. OG needs a whole lot more touches as well, definitely. Vaughn says 28. I think that's fair. I could see 20 as well for Hart, coming off the bench. He played a lot of power forward, and Buzzer, and Yabusele is here. Huck Porty's in the rotation as well. Plus, we didn't play double big lineups until the playoffs, basically. If we start the season with more double big lineups, there's less minutes for the wings. Less minutes for the wings, because OG is going to be playing more of the 3. Hart can't play the 2. He's not a shooting guard. Then you got Bridges, Deuce, Clarkson. A lot of guys that can play the 2. 25 says Optimus. Let's talk about this. Yeah, Buzzer, great question. Who are the biggest winners? I think Houston, definitely. Orlando, Atlanta, solid. And Denver Nuggets have had a pretty good summer as well. I don't think it's as good as some people are saying. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jonas Valanciunas. I know they're happy to just get some names and some depth pieces, but really, those guys can be liabilities sometimes. So I know they're kind of overselling it a little bit, but I do think Cam Johnson for Michael Porter Jr. is a good swap. I do think Bruce Brown on a minimum is a very good pickup. So overall, Denver got slightly better, a little bit better. But yeah, definitely the Houston Rockets have won so far. They're a joint contender out west, in my opinion. East, Atlanta probably had the best summer, along with the Knicks, the Magic. Milwaukee, a loser. Detroit, a loser. Indiana, a loser. Boston, a loser. Fam. So Boston have been a loser, assuming they're not going to keep Al Horford. They've lost Kristaps. They've lost Cornet. Lack of point guard. Indiana, big loser, going from the finals to losing Turner, Halliburton. And then also Milwaukee. I mean, you stretch Dame, I get it. But Miles Turner, they desperately need a Brogdon. They lose Connaughton. They lose Brook Lopez as well. I mean, they're not really going to make much of a move either. And the other team was who was one of the other losers? Detroit. Malik Beasley. Who knows what happens with that? They lost Dennis Schroeder. They lost Tim Hardaway as well. I think that they're going to take a step back. What do y'all think? OG needs to practice ball handling. Yep, I get it. East feels wide open. Ransom says Hawks not making the playoffs. Who do you have ahead of them? Bucks are waving Chris Livingston. Wow. Buzzer, who do y'all think? Who do y'all think's the winner and losers? I could see the Hawks being out of the top four, but I still think they've had a good off-season. It's okay to pay credit to a team that's made good moves, but I'm not saying they'll be a contender or nothing. You know, is there still buzz about Giannis coming to New York? Slightly, I think. Like maybe maybe an echo, maybe not buzz, but an echo. Maybe a fart. I mean, Giannis, man, I hate these players that just drag it out. Like he's doing subliminals, posting all this crap. Just put Milwaukee fans out of their misery, man. Just man up. I'm sick of these players that don't put in trade requests. Like, as much as I don't really like James Harden and all that, man, and guys like Russ and Simmons and all that, man, they know how to do it, man. It's like, get me out of here, Bradley Beal. When they want something to happen, man, they make it happen. This Giannis thing, LeBron, man, they love flirting, playing around, high drama, putting reaction line, little Instagram stories, subliminals. So just act like a grown man, like a professional. You won your championship in Milwaukee. You're already a legend. Fans aren't going to hate you. We all know that roster's trash. We all know it's not going anywhere. We all know you're not going to win a chip again in Milwaukee. Ryan Rollins is their starting point guard on the depth chart. Like, Kyle Kuzma is their starting three right now. Between waiving Dame and signing Miles Turner, that's $46 million of the cap. Now you're basically paying Miles Turner $46 million just to get rid of Dame, so that you can get, Rye says Eastern Conference Finals, Cavs, Knicks, barring injuries. Yeah, look, on paper, I think I want to stay respectful to the other guys. I think that the Boston Celtics will still be a handful. I still think Orlando could be a handful. The Indiana's definitely dropped off now. The Hawks will still be tough. But yeah, I think on paper the Knicks should get to the Eastern Conference Finals, definitely. Buzzer says Houston, Knicks, ATL, Orlando are winners. Yeah. Okay, so you agree. Who are your losers of the summer? Robert says Houston and Denver stand out as winners. Yeah, I have Houston ahead of Denver, but obviously I feel like Denver have made the most of what they could do. I just don't think Jonas Valanciunas and Tim Hardaway are as big of a moves as some people think. But Bruce Brown and Cam Johnson will definitely help them out. Buzzer says loses Indiana, Phoenix because they can't get rid of Beal. Milwaukee, of course. Brooklyn. How about Indy, fam, going from the finals to bust? Right. How cheap is their owner, man? You go to the finals, these guys lay it all out there for y'all, and you can't even stump up $26 million to keep your starting center right there. Miles Turner. The guy's been in trade rumors for 10 years, repaid you and gave it his all to get to the finals, man. You know, we see Sacramento Kings show more loyalty to some of their players. Rice says 100. All the Koi stuff drives me nuts. They're main character syndromes, you know, Giannis and LeBron. One thing I'm cool with KD about, KD is just chill. KD will interact with anybody online. Maybe you could say he's too thin-skinned, but KD's like everyday kind of person, you know. He'll interact with y'all. He'll have a conversation online. I think he's over that kind of stage, but LeBron's still acting like the league is revolving around him. Giannis still holding on to Milwaukee. Like, we all know what's coming. NYCB Ball 08 salute says Bucks get an F plus. Yeah, their fan base got hype, man, getting Miles Turner, but you have to waive Dame. Such a good guy, great character guy, and a guy who didn't really want to get traded to the Bucks. I mean, the Portland Trailblazers did him dirty, man. He wanted to go to Miami, you know, a legend of the club, Hall of Famer, and he waited and waited, and they sent his ass to Milwaukee to freeze and to lose and to tear his Achilles, and then Milwaukee end up chopping him, man. Yeah, it's been a tough few years for Dame right now, man. He deserves to go wherever he wants. You know, maybe, you know, go to Golden State, play with Steph. Vaughn says, Buzzer says, prayers up for all those that are injured. I pray that it doesn't happen to any of our guys. Yes, prayers up. Appreciate that. Vaughn says, Hardaway and Cam were exactly the players they needed, catch and shooters, and Cam is a good wing defender as well. Yeah, like for what they had to give up, Hardaway, solid pickup, but he's just so streaky, and he can shoot you in the game, can shoot you out. So I don't think that's helping them go over the top of Houston, but it's a solid depth signing. I think the Bruce Brown one on the minimum is definitely one where they got a steal. That's a steal for them. Yeah, D Grant. I could see Pacer players looking at it like, yeah, a lot of players around the league. Like, that's why the Pacers know who they are. They had to draft, they have to develop. You know, not many free agent signings are going to go there outside of Siakam. But really, if you look at Siakam, they were smart. They traded for Siakam so that they had his bird rights and could give him the bag. It ain't like Siakam, you know, chose Indiana, you know, among suitors. You know, he liked it, and obviously they paid him. But yeah, Indiana's in a tough spot when it comes to free agents. Yeah, Simon, Mamu Kalashvili, that big man. I think he got the bag though, man. He actually got signed. He was a guy I was looking at. Mamu Kalashvili, the Georgian big man. But yeah, he got a bag. So shout out to him. It's time to develop Hakporti and James Nudgy now. I think those guys can be beasts. Those guys could be beasts. Yep. Brook Lopez leaving. Bobby Portis getting the bag. Yeah, we will be doing the post games after Summer League, definitely. Live post game after every Summer League game. The times are pretty good times as well. Earlier games, we don't have to wait up too late. I think out in Vegas was it like 5? Some of them 5:30 tip off, 6 o'clock tip off as well. Ransom and Vaughn got the same list. So Knicks, Cavs, Magic, Bucks, Celtics, Pistons, Pacers, Sixers, Heat. Okay. Yeah, Knicks, Cavs, yep. Magic, I could see that. Bucks, still got Giannis. Celtics, Pistons, Pacers, Sixers, Heat. Okay. So you're very low on ATL, man. ATL below the Sixers and the Heat. That's rough. That's rough. You got ATL below the Pacers, Sixers, and Heat. And even the Pistons as well. Now, yeah, it could definitely backfire with ATL. One of the things about KP, whenever you need KP, it's a flip of a coin whether or not he's going to be available or not. When KP's healthy, that's a difference maker, I think. But as we saw in the playoffs, he was dealing with that virus that just wouldn't go away. And Celtics fans still have no idea what that's all about. But yeah, I still are high on the Celtics too. White, Jaylen Brown. They've still got a great front office, good coach. I think they'll still be very competitive. Top 6. They'll still be a top 6 team, avoid the play-in. I think Orlando have to prove it to me before they can actually, get that respect, because we keep hearing about it. Paolo, Franz Wagner, some of my friends hyped them up. Draft analysts as well, very high on Paolo, but I'm like, y'all can't be getting that much hype if you take a step back. Like, they were supposed to take a step forward 2 years ago, Paolo and Franz, and they took a step back. So I'm like, okay, until you can prove it to me, finish in the top 4, and make a deep playoff run. I think the jury is still out on Orlando. Same with Atlanta. Jury is still out on Atlanta with Trey Young. Trey Young's, his bark is bigger than his bite. Trey Young trying to act like a dog, but really, no one's scared of him right now. No one's scared of Trey Young. The other guys were going to have to step up. Dyson Daniels has to develop a jump shot. And they need Ricochet and they need Jalen Johnson to stay healthy as well. According to reports, Adam Himmel's back. There is mutual interest between the Celtics and Damian Lillard, per the Boston Globe. So obviously it goes back to his connections with Jason Tatum. Man, that's crazy. The fact that they're both dealing with an Achilles as well. Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard both recovering from the Achilles. They could be eyeing a comeback together. So yeah, good on Dame. He can pick wherever he wants to go. Getting traded to Milwaukee was tough. I think Portland definitely didn't want to do him any favors. Reports coming out, Al Horford is expected to sign with the Golden State Warriors. I think they have the money. KP's allergic to balls. Horford going to stay in Boston. I think he's going to go out west. I think he's done with Boston now. Who's my sleeper team? I'll give you one out east then. Let's say Detroit. I think, a lot of people will sleep on Detroit. I think, don't forget, Jaden Ivey was out all of the season. He's an upgrade over Tim Hardaway and Schroeder. So if Cade takes another leap, can shoot the rock, I think they could be a sleep team. I wouldn't put them in the top 5 right now, so that's why I think they're more of a sleep team. But they could make some noise still. I think Jaden Ivey is a big time player. He's the Robin to the or could be the Robin to the Cade's Batman, but also or Sarah Thompson could take another leap as well. They got obviously Jalen Duran, Beef Stew. They still got a great core 5-6 guys. Malik Beasley could have been a locker room distraction as well. I know they picked up what Karis LeVert as well, or they picked up one of the sharpshooters, Duncan Robinson. I think they picked up Duncan Robinson as well. And who knows, they might be able to retain Beasley with his bird rights, I think. If the court case goes okay, or the investigation, they might be able to retain Malik Beasley. He'll be motivated to play some big-time minutes and get paid. Great question, Buzzer. What free agent out here that still surprises me? I think Chris Paul is kind of still dragging his feet, but that's his choice. I think in terms of a player who hasn't been picked up yet, who's still waiting for a good offer, I think Lonnie Walker's one that's surprising. I think teams should have snapped him up, with some of these wings going off. I think Lonnie Walker's a guy that could be earning like a $3, $4, $5 million deal somewhere. That's somewhat surprising, fam. Outside of that, Mo Wagner. I think there's mutual interest in returning to Orlando. I'm surprised Mo Wagner's still out here. Chris Boucher. Surprised no one's taken a bet on Chris Boucher. I'm not surprised Ben Simmons is still out there. What do y'all think about what's the reason that LA, the Clippers don't want to bring him back? Like, they got him for the minimum and they still don't think that they still don't want to bring him back. So is that shocking? Is that shocking? Is that no surprise? Are they done with the Ben Simmons experiment? He was very polarizing for the Clippers as well. So yeah, just checking what's the latest reports coming through. We've got the Zodiac GM a sign of approval with Mike Brown as a Pisces as the head coach with synergy rating an A+. So the Zodiac connection with Mike Brown feels like it's a good fit. Strong synergy with the team. His Pisces energy will complement Jalen Brunson as a Virgo very well. And the Pisces-Virgo connection is quite powerful. He brings passion, ambition, adaptability, backed by a wealth of coaching experience and a knowledge to the game. From Popovich, Kerr, coaching legends, Hall of Famers as well. Now we'll see how it plays out. A lot of pressure under the front office with this one. Vaughan says poor drive and passion, a head case. Optimus 2G says, who would you rather now as a starting shooting guard, Grimes or Bridges? It depends on the money. Depends on the money, fam. Reports Grimes is going to sign for, I think, anywhere from 9, 10 to maybe 15, 16. If he gets that, I would lean towards Grimes for that money. If the money's equal, I would probably still take Bridges. I think if the money is equal. But certainly if Bridges is on 35 million and Grimes is on 15, then that's a big difference. No, he wasn't impactful, Buzzer. Ben Simmons was not impactful in the Clippers. I think he was just too inconsistent. Maybe too many distractions out there with James Harden. Oh yeah, Brogdon, great one, Shokan. Brogdon's a shocker for me. I think he could go back to the Bucks or Pacers. Yeah, I think the Wiz are too stacked with too many veterans now. I think they're going to shed some salary, fam. A sign and trade. Um, Now, yeah, sign and trade. On that note, guys, something to pay attention to. And again, I don't claim to be a cap expert, you know, over some, but from what I see, the Knicks still have the cap hold of Precious Achua, and they've declined the option for PJ Tucker, but they still have Precious Achua's cap hold. So, sign and trade still a possibility if we want to send some good money out and bring in some money. Now it's going to send us over the second apron without possibly sending another guy, but we could see what happens with maybe sending more pieces out. So that is a situation to look out for. Yeah, Grimes at 16 million is great value, good upside, durability as well. Could put the ball on the floor, but I think we're going to get more out of Mikal Bridges. I really do, especially in a new system. And not even talking about the coach, Mike Brown, not even talking about Tibbs or Bridges. Brunson dominated the basketball so much. So look at it from that perspective. Bridges wasn't utilized as well as he could have. He needs to be better defensively, needs to be better shooting the three. But just from a usage perspective, Jalen Brunson took up most of the offense, most of the usage, and we didn't get the value out of a Mikal Bridges skill set. I think offensively, you got to play Bridges more with the bench. When Brunson's off the floor, that's a chance to utilize, Bridges a lot more. And I think, look, Brunson's our best player. He's the best offensive player. He needs to take the most shots where possible. But when he's off the floor, you need to tap into some other guys as well. Simon says, according to reports, Simmons deciding between three teams, including the Knicks. Wow. That'd be very interesting. According to Windhorse, the only options for Al Horford are the Warriors or the Lakers right now. And the Lakers picked up DeAndre Ayton. So let's see what happens. Coming out of the Rockets camp, Houston is expected to waive Jock Landale before the July 7 agree day, but could also trade Cam Whitmore in exchange for non-player assets. Cha-ching. Cam Whitmore, guys, we could get in on him for non-player assets. Like I said, Precious Achua sign and trade. They could sign Precious to a non-guarantee deal, send him over there, and then they can cut him. And we can exchange picks. Non-player assets. The Houston Rockets could be looking for, man. The Knicks have 7 first-round picks. We have the Wizards protected first. And a couple of pick swaps. Ben Simmons, heck no, says Tay. Yeah, I don't think he's going to choose the Knicks either. I mean, you know how they do. They use Knicks' name as leverage, to try to boost the value of these guys. Try to show that there's more interest in these guys, right? I think Ben Simmons probably got a chance to stay out west. And look, if I'm Milwaukee, they need a point guard. Indiana, they don't have Halliburton, but I don't think Ben Simmons is going to do well with the Rick Carlisle and the locker room out there as well. Johnny's excited about the Cam Whitmore. Yeah, there was going to be a squeeze in Houston. Consolidation for real. They've got so much talent, Houston. So I think the Knicks could try to get a steal or maybe swap one of our rookies. With some of the other rookies. I was hoping to try to get Ryan Dunn. Out of Phoenix. I was hoping to try to get Ryan Dunn. Cam Thomas is a free agent as well, fam, but he's a restricted free agent, and Brooklyn have all the cap space to bring him back. They can outbid anybody just to bring. So they're bidding against themselves right now. So Brooklyn's just waiting. Cam Thomas's camp obviously just doing their due diligence. But once there's no money available, Brooklyn will bring back Cam Thomas. Yeah, they don't need to give Cam Thomas an offer right now because they're bidding against themselves. He's a restricted free agent. So yeah, with Ben Simmons, man, I'd rather we just look at Kevin McCullough and Mohamed Diawara and just develop, just to see what we got in those guys. I'm pretty sure Kevin McCullough's perimeter defense is NBA quality from what I've seen. The college career that he had. He's 6'6". He can handle the ball and distribute a little bit like Simmons does. And he's cheaper as well. And if you develop Kevin McCullough, you've got a guy that you can have for multiple years. A Ben Simmons type is a guy that's just like a one and done. That's just like a one and done situation. So with Yabusele, guys, he has a player option in the second year. So the Knicks, this could be just a 1 year dance with Yabusele, because if he has a good year, which I'm expecting he's going to be dynamic with a lot of minutes and on a good team, he's going to be playing in the playoffs. Yabusele's market value is going to skyrocket if he opts out of the player option, which I think he will. Jordan Clarkson, we're lucky to get him on a 1 year rental on a vet minimum. He's going to try to parlay this season into a payday. So we could be in a situation where, Yabusele, Clarkson, we make a 1 year run with these guys, which is what I'm trying to say is we need to prioritize some of the younger guys still. I don't want this season to be a waste for the young guys. This needs to be a situation where after this year, they're ready to take a step up. If one of these vets, flees for the bag somewhere else, we need to make sure that one of these rooks can play. Pacome Dardier, McCullough, or Colette. I don't want it to stymie their growth too much. Now, I understand you can't play too many young players when you're contending, but hopefully they get more of a chance. Yabusele, Clarkson, like I said, I hope they stick around, but I'm fully, I'm understanding that it might just be a 1 year thing with those guys, Yabusele, he's going to want to get paid. We're right up against the second apron. Now, if we get to the NBA Finals, or we compete, we win the chip, Dolan might just be like, to hell, we're going to the second apron next year. Let's bring all these guys back. Dolan will do that. But it's all about how much money they're going to get paid. But the good thing is, I guess money around the league is scarce right now. A lot of people, a lot of teams already trying to keep their own free agents. What do y'all think about Philly as well? I haven't really spoken about Philly much. Embiid, if he's healthy, Daryl Morey's going to get aggressive. They will probably try to trade Paul George. They've got a good young core with Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and Quentin Grimes. They brought back Paul Reed. Kelly Oubre sticking around. Eric Gordon stuck around. Andre Drummond they're stuck with. But I just don't think Embiid's going to stay healthy. I can't see Embiid, being available or being healthy towards the end of a season. Yeah, great question about the Rooks. Rai says they need to play. Buzzer says, how many minutes should our rookies get? I'll go through the list. So Kolek, I think a win for me, what would be a win for the organization and for Kolek if he's able to play 8 to 12 minutes. Just get his feet wet. Consistent 8 to 12 minutes. It's going to be tough. I can't see it happening right now unless there's an injury, because you're already looking at a 10-man rotation kind of thing. But as I said at the top of the show tonight, you could substitute out Huck Porty in the second unit. Maybe Yabusele and one of the starting bigs plays minutes with the bench, and maybe Kolek can take that spot. But then you're playing with small ball lineups of Kolek, Clarkson, and Deuce. So that's very small. Now, if Deuce plays more with the starters, then you could see some Kolek with Jordan Clarkson. I'd have problems defensively with that one, though. So, yeah, ballpark, I think if it's a win, 8 minutes to 12 minutes for Kolek. McCullough, probably not going to get time unless there's an injury, but he should be kind of next wing up. For him, for me, man, 12 minutes would be a win for McCullough as well. 12 to 15 minutes. And Pacome Dardier, I guess it's going to be a shootout out of Dardier and McCullough right now for who's the wing that's gonna get minutes. I would lean towards Dardier. Again, Huck Porty could be that guy. You substitute out Huck Porty, maybe it's Dardier. You substitute out Huck Porty, maybe it's Kolek. Or maybe Huck Porty keeps that rotation spot. There's always going to be an injury or two, so hopefully they get a chance. But even without an injury, I think at least hopefully one rookie or one sophomore is in the rotation. And I won't be mad if it's Huck Porty, because like I said, Yabusele could flee for the bag after 1 year with the player option. So Mitchell Robinson could get traded at some point throughout the season, might suffer the injury bug again. If not, he might not get extended again. We don't know. But Huck Porty's kind of that guy that we're kind of bought into. We gave him a 2-year deal, picked up the second-year option. I think Huck Porty's future here could be pretty safe. The other guys, I'm not so sure, and they're in a tough spot. We've got a lot of point guards. We've got a lot of wings as well. I think maybe with Huck Porty, the fact that we just don't have as many traditional fives gives him that chance. Leon Rose could pull a rabbit and end up trading Josh Hart. We don't know, man. Maybe they feel like Dardier on the rookie contract could save us a lot of money. Maybe Dardier makes a major leap with the shooting and the defense. And if that's the case, you have to look at that. You have to tap into that. Because Dardier could be under cost control for 3 more seasons with his rookie contract. If Dardier pops and becomes a NBA rotation player, a wing, a 2-sided wing on a rookie scale contract, you'd be foolish not to tap into that and trade a veteran, because of just the finances. McCullough's more of a flyer. He's on a minimum. If he pans out, that's gravy. If not, he was the third last pick in the draft. But you're really betting on Dardier or Kolek to become a future rotation player with the first round money. that we've invested. Yeah, we could look at these guys like assets, Optimus at the trade deadline. Jordan Clarkson, Yabusele, we could be thinking of those guys as an asset that, hey, we're not sure if they're going to come back. We don't have the money to pay them. Let's cash in. That's possible. But maybe not for Giannis. It might be a case of like Dante DiVincenzo. Maybe Minnesota are like, yeah, we would love Yabusele. We would love a Clarkson. Man, would y'all flip one of those or both of those if you could get Dante back on the team at the trade deadline for guaranteed money? Let's not forget Dante's under contract next season at a very cheap number as well. So while these guys could be rentals, Dante's still got another 2 years left on his deal. There's talk that Minnesota would be open to trading Dante. We've got to see how the season plays out. He was a little streaky for them last season. I mean, they lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker though, so they're in a situation where they might get more minutes for Dante. Rice said in a second I would do that. Yep. David's trade for Giannis is OG, Hart, Mitch, and picks. Yeah, ideally you try to keep Cat and Brunson out of any Giannis deal, and then you fire up with Brunson, Cat, and Giannis. They might not want Cat's money either. This is the kind of trade package that they might go for, but they'll probably want one of the younger players as well, one or two of the younger guys, which will be no problem. Hart's money is going to be expiring pretty soon. Mitchell Robinson, are we stalling on an extension so that he's more trade friendly? Once you extend Mitch, that's guaranteed money. So I've heard a lot of people speculate. What's up with Bridges and Mitch's extensions? Why haven't they come yet? That could be smoke. There could be smoke with that fire. Or maybe not with Mitch, maybe with Bridges. Maybe with one or two of them. Knowing how smart and fiscal they are with their money, I'll be surprised if they give both of them major long-term deals. Flexibility is key. Again, you got some of the young guys like Dardier and McCullough and that. I don't know, man. Maybe they're going to hold on for one more year and just see. Let's go for it this year. Let's do away with any extension. Let's go for it. Like one last dance with all these guys, and just because the East is a wreck, and then maybe next year they just approach it. They approach it in the off season, and just keep that flexibility. What do y'all think? Yeah, Optimus says, by the way, if next year's Wizards first round pick, which is top 8 protected, doesn't convey, the Knicks will receive 2 high second rounders, one in 26 and one 27. Yeah, so it's still more likely that it doesn't convey as a first. More likely it'll become 2 seconds, but I think there's a chance that Wizards could finish with the 5th or 6th worst record and slide in the lottery. You could fall down in the lottery, which is always a crapshoot as well. They just have to fall to 9. It's a top 8 protected pick. So if the Wizards have the 9th worst record next season, the Knicks will get the pick. The Knicks could get a top 10 pick. That'd be big time, I guess, in a trade scenario. Bridges sign and trade to Kuminga, to Golden State for Kuminga. Yeah, there's there's a lot of flexibility in terms of Bridges is a player that's still tradable because a lot of teams, admire two-way players, definitely. But if he takes a discount, I think it'll be to stay with the Knicks because of Brunson and all the connections that we did to make this happen. If Bridges is looking for the full bag, the Knicks might look elsewhere, because that is going to be key. And I tell you why the two are tied together, guys. We all know that we're just under the second apron now. We're capped at the second apron, meaning we can't go over for the rest of the season. We have to stay under the second apron because we're capped now. Next season, the season after this one, where Bridges becomes the free agent, Mitchell Robinson is the free agent. The Knicks can stay under the second apron if they kept Mikal Bridges. They kept Mikal Bridges, they could still be under the second apron and give him that extension. But they can't stay under the second apron if they pay Mikal Bridges and Mitchell Robinson together. It's only because Mitch is a free agent after this season, his money completely is coming off the books. He's an expiring contract. But if they want to re-up Bridges and Mitch, they're going to be over the second apron. So they're going to have to decide, is this a team that they're comfortable with being over the second apron with? Now, they might want to keep both, and maybe they end up trading OG Anunoby because his $42 million is going to go up, and that's a boatload of money that you can consolidate with. So they're going to have to choose. They're going to have to find out, is this the core that they're going to be in the second apron next season with, or they're going to wait to see how it plays out. What's the best trade package? There'll be a lot of buzz, guys, especially if that Giannis situation is still out there, and who they could trade with. So Jason Kidd has got his key assistant now in Frank Vogel, and will now have two former NBA head coaches on his staff with Frank Vogel and Jay Triano. Jay Triano, Frank Vogel, backing up Jason Kidd as the assistants. Now, who do you think the New York Knicks should get? Who do you think the assistants should come in? In terms of the Wizards' protected pick, I'll have to double check that. I did think it was top 8 protected. If it's top 10 protected, then it's no chance. The last source that I checked was notradeclause.com. I thought that was a good resource for cap and draft pick projections. Notradeclause.com was the one that I was checking out. But yeah, I think either way, it's most likely to convey to 2 seconds, which is fine. We were okay with that. It's kind of gravy if that conveys. But for the lead assistant, guys, I think it'd be a great move if we could get James Borrego. But the Pelicans don't want to let him go. Do they take this opportunity to promote Rick Brunson as the lead assistant? I doubt it, but it's going to be a lot of pressure on him, man. We need creative minds. We need the offense, X's and O's. So I'm guessing we're gonna bring in someone a lot more experienced. Mike Woodson's not known for his offense, so don't look for it to be Mike Woodson as a lead assistant, as a offensive guy. I think it's going to be more of like your James Borrego. I don't know if we're going to be able to convince Johnny Bryant to come back, given the fact that we didn't really interview him, or we didn't give Johnny Bryant much of a chance. Maybe we give Sam Cassell. Maybe we give Sam Cassell a chance. Throw some names out here. What do y'all think? Who do you want to be the assistants? I must admit, I was shocked if if they keep any of the Thibodeau assistants, as reports say, I'll be shocked. I can't see any of them sticking around except Rick. I don't know why they would want to stick around, man. Stay loyal to Tibbs. Well, I know why. They obviously want a job. I know a lot of reports. I think Fred Katz of The Athletic was reporting that some of the assistants were worried. They were worried that their jobs, when Thibodeau's was on thin ice, reports that some of the assistants were a bit worried about losing their job. I get it. These assistants, they're not paid like Thibodeau is. They need to keep working. They need to keep working. So I get it. And also, maybe the fact that if some of them stay, the Knicks might save money. They don't have to pay them out and pay their contracts out. They had to pay Tibbs, 30 mil. Rice says, I like the roster, go to the ECF, and it got to the ECF, got out coached, bulked up the bench. East is wide open. The team needs a little tweaks to make it work, in my opinion. Need Leon Rose voodoo to send us home. Teresa Witherspoon. Yeah, there's a lot more females on the sidelines across the NBA. Indiana's lead assistant as well is big time. She has a lot of input with Rick Carlisle. We definitely won't be bringing in Becky Hammond. That's for sure. What's going on with the Raptors as well? With Masai Ujiri, guys. What's going to happen with him, man? Is Miami Heat, Mickey Arison, going to pull the rug out from Pat Riley and replace him with Masai Ujiri, man? That would be a Miami-type move to pull the rug out from Pat and bring in Masai Ujiri. But Pat Riley has some ownership. He has percentage of ownership. Look, Pat Riley's got to hang it up at some point, No disrespect to Pat from a Miami standpoint, but how long is he going to go for, man? He's 70 plus, man. So reports Sacramento are motivated to trade Malik Monk. The Sacramento Kings are motivated to trade Malik Monk. Someone's going to land Malik Monk, fam. So no updates on the official press conference for Mike Brown, but where we at? We at Wednesday. I'll bet all my money that it's on Friday. We're Wednesday night right now. Tomorrow's a little too soon for no press conference, David. So yeah, I'd bet the house that the press conference is on Friday. Get it done with before the end of the week. All companies love a Friday PR, send out because people are feeling better. It could get distracted in news cycles if it's bad PR or good PR. People are people are on a buzz on a Friday, headed into the weekend. Now there might be a lot more sort of crossing the T's, dotting the I's. Getting the contracts, getting the assistants, fixed up. There is a lot of work to be done. So I think by Friday there'll be official statement, but maybe all the assistant hires and all that might not be done until a little bit later than that. Yeah, it just depends on what's happening, man. Friday's a holiday, okay. If Friday's a holiday, then yeah, I'm probably going to guess it's going to be Monday then. Monday or Wednesday. Monday or Tuesday. Monday or Tuesday. Friday might be a little too soon. Yeah, 4th of July. Okay, I got you. How could I forget? How could I forget, fam? Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to make an official statement tomorrow. They might put out the online official media release. But yeah, press conference next week then. Definitely. And I'm okay with that because it'll give them time to get everything fixed up and get all the assistants ready. They might be able to sell it like it's some continuity, with Rick Brunson, maybe, Darren Erman staying, maybe Dice Yoshimoto staying, and they might say, you know what, we're not completely scrapping everything. We're bringing in Mike Brown, but we're keeping some of the other guys. There's going to be some continuity. Maybe Dice can continue with his summer league squad. I think it'd be doubtful Dice stays though. I think it might be more of the other guys that stay. But yeah, Dice Yoshimoto, Summer League legend. 4th of July, happy 4th coming up to everyone. We'll be streaming, definitely. Friday or no Friday, we'll be streaming. Hopefully more news coming through. The Knicks are still looking at some vet minimum guys, so is there a consolidation coming, fam? They might be looking at it like, where's Tyler Kolek going to get his minutes? Do we sell high? Dardier, they might be looking at like, what, this guy needs minutes to develop. We're already stacked at the wings. They might look to swap him for a future pick, shed some salary with someone else. Could be interesting. What are the players saying about Mike Brown is a great question. I haven't heard any Knicks reactions yet, but I do know Brunson, the Brunsons have been around the league a long time. I've crossed paths with Mike Brown. I think Hart's obviously reacted to the Clarkson news, but no one's really given us an update on Mike Brown. But in terms of the players, things didn't work out as well in Sacramento, but he got a lot, out of Sabonis. So I think Sabonis will be a guy that, will rock with Mike Brown. I think De'Aaron Fox, obviously didn't work out with him. So I think a lot of vets respect Mike Brown. He's been around the league so long. All the Golden State players will swear by Mike Brown. I know a lot of the Golden State fans as well, because you're the good guy. When you're the assistant on a franchise, champion, you're looked at as the good guy because there's less pressure. You're not the head coach. You're the assistant, 4-time champion as an assistant. When you're the head coach, you're the fall guy. You're the guy that takes all the heat. So Mike Brown took all the heat in Sacramento, but if you speak to any Golden State fan, and that they love Mike Brown and the veterans, the players, and obviously some of the players in Sacktown like Mike Brown as well. But I think he had some clashes with Keon Ellis, young player. Didn't give him as many opportunities, but he got the most out of the Fox Sabonis tandem, and I think his experience will help with Cat and with JB as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Obviously, now that we have our head coach, right, we can move forward. Keep moving forward, man. And next up, official summer league and free agency continues. How the Knicks round out the rest of the roster is a talking point. Mike Brown's assistants, talking point as well. But summer league, guys, coming up next week. Looking forward to chopping it up and the rest of free agency with y'all. Been a fun stream. Appreciate all the questions, buzz, and everything coming through about our New York Knicks now with official upgraded squad and a new coach to go with it. Welcome Mike Brown to the squad, man. There will be a lot of pressure. It's championship or bust, but it's in a much better situation than Sacramento was, where basically, it's a lose-lose situation in Sacramento. But with the New York Knicks, he inherits a great squad where he can employ his experience and offensive versatility to these talented players right now. 3-point shooting should go up. Assists should go up. Ball movement will go up. Less isolation. I want Deuce McBride to get more minutes as well. So I don't know where things look for Tyler Kolek right now with Clarkson, and Deuce should be getting more minutes. Maybe you could suggest Brunson's minutes go down, with Tibbs not here, but your best player needs to play 38. Your best player, Brunson, I think needs to play 36, 38. But Deuce, soon to hit free agency. Got to figure out what the plan is with Deuce. Minutes go up. Does he start some games? Clarkson could be a 1-year rental, like I said, y'all. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. But peace, happiness, blessings to everyone in the chat. Replay squad, salute. Smash that like button, and you've got the Knicks streets buzzing. And we'll see you tomorrow night, same time, and we'll chop up the latest. Peace.